The Packers wide receiver core is in complete flux now with the removal of Davante Adams and him going over to Las Vegas. And we've got Christian Watson coming back from injury, got Sammy Watkins still being a thing. I mean, Romeo Doubs, I don't know how fast they're going to be able to create his bust like up in Canton, but we know that he's going to be a star. So who's it going to be? I mean, I don't advocate, or at least I don't think people are going to be advocating for drafting multiple wide receivers or pass catchers within the Green Bay offense. So which wide receiver should folks be targeting? Which receiver should we be targeting? So again, by the numbers, I'm going to try and break down who I'm going to be looking at. Like when I come into drafts, like which pass catcher am I going to be targeting out of this Green Bay offense? Because we know it's got to be somebody. With Aaron Rodgers connected to such a good passer, we want to at least get some of that passing goodness, a part of that aerial attack out in Green Bay. So let's go ahead and see. Let's break it down and see who we should be targeting in this week's episode of By the Numbers. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. From a metric standpoint, because y'all know how I do. I try and look at things like from an analytical and logical standpoint, and the things that I'm trying to figure out when it comes to seeing if a wide receiver is going to be the one that I want to target. I'm looking at, do they earn targets? Are they efficient when they receive those targets? And of course, since we're talking about fantasy football, are they the ones that Aaron Rodgers is going to be looking for once they get into the red zone? Because you know that we need those touchdowns. The money shots, and even just the opportunities. Because of course, touchdowns can be fluky on a year-to-year basis. So if I'm going to at least think about the opportunity that person can have, once they get within the 20-yard line, let's see if they were at least capable of getting that type of opportunity once they get into that type of situation. So by the numbers, let's go ahead and take a look at it. So last season alone, just looking at targets per route runs, it's taken the total number of targets that a player was able to accrue or they earned when they were on the field, divide that by the routes run. That gives you an opportunity metric, some type of measure to say that if they were on the field, they were running routes and they were getting targets from their quarterback. And of course, Allen Lazard has been the key guy that people have been honing in on this off season. His ADP, if you're drafting in best ball, on Underdog, risen. From 10th, 11th round at the beginning of the offseason now, he's 7th, 8th, 9th rounder, somewhere in there. So we want to see, can he actually be that guy? And it gets from last season, he was kind of on the back end. He was kind of the forgotten man. Of course, I tossed in Josiah DeGar just to even overemphasize the fact that the types of, the amount of targets that he was getting based on the routes that he was running wasn't the greatest. But again, if we contextualize his situation for 2022, Davante Adams isn't there. Marquez Valdes-Scantling isn't there. Randall Cobb is 1 year older. So, that opens up a ton of opportunity for one Allen Lazard. So maybe his TPRR, targets per route run, being so low from last season. Of course, he was injured. Of course, have to keep that in context as well. Not as big of a deal. And his yards per route run, again, efficiency metric, looking at how many yards you're able to create either by catching the ball, when you actually at the target point or at the catch point, or if you're able to create yards after the catch, divide that by the number of routes you're running. Again, good efficiency metric. Of course, Davante Adams up at the top because he's one of the best receivers in the game. But again, we see Allen Lazard towards the back end. But again, let's contextualize the situation. Davante Adams gone. Marquez Valdes-Scantling gone. Randall Cobb another year older. So, all right, I can at least see a case for Allen Lazard kind of being that guy. And so, but then if we go into the red zone, because again, another key portion of a fantasy wide receivers, the way they accrue points is if they're getting those targets within the red zone. And now if we start to look at targets per route run, okay, Allen Lazard moving up the chain. Somehow or another, Mercedes Lewis made it up on this chart. You can probably go ahead and toss him out. We don't have to worry about Mercedes Lewis in the year of our Lord 2022. Randall Cobb has probably got that connection with Aaron Rodgers. Of course, it's going to stay there. But again, Davante Adams gone. I don't think we need to worry about a tight end like DeGar out on the field. So again, we can already see a guy like Lazard moving up and up the pecking order. If he was already earning a decent amount of targets based on the routes that he was running last season, and now we see so many vacancies being opened up in that offense, I see nothing but goodness for Lazard. And now look at his EPA per target. I didn't use yards per route run because you're not going to be able to create a ton of yards once that side of the field, once you're within just the 20-yard line. So let's look at EPA per target. Allen Lazard, look at how far up he is right there from an efficiency standpoint. Most efficient receiver on the Packers squad. So with all this evidence so far, and we're looking at the types of targets, the overall targets, red zone targets, And we're seeing nothing but at least positive cases for a guy like Allen Lazard. And this was an offense that last season, I mean, top 4, top 5 in pass rate over expectation, like overall. And then once they got into the red zone, I mean, even we think about the Packers offense as being one of the slower offenses, I mean, bottom 3, bottom 5 in terms of neutral pace of play, but the passing volume was still going to be there. So if we want to target any of those if you want to target one of the receivers, one of the pass catchers going to be connected to Aaron Rodgers, kind of already laid out the case for the guys we should be targeting right now. We already made the case for him so far. It's kind of obvious, right? Who we should be targeting right now? I know who I'm going to be targeting. These guys. Yeah, these two fools right here, man. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I mean, the 2 running backs for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, those guys, last year alone, like we already know about the rushing portion. A.J. Dillon, Quadzilla, whatever nickname you want to assign to him, Aaron Jones being the shiftier back, that 1-2 punch. I mean, one of the best like in the league. A.J. Dillon actually last season first in success rate amongst all running backs for according to Football Outsiders. Was that not the reason why I'm bringing him up? Because he was also a solid receiver. And we already know what Aaron Jones can do like as a receiver as well. Those two, like last season, I mean, from a efficiency standpoint and also the targets that they were earning last year, one of the best in the league. Aaron Jones, 48th in targets per route run, and that's if you include all wide receivers, all tight ends, and all running backs. I mean, he had a larger targets per route run share than Travis Kelce and CeeDee Lamb, 2 players that are being drafted ahead of him in underdog drafts as of right now. A.J. Dillon, amongst all the guys, I mean, all those positions that I just listed off, 27th in EPA per target. I mean, 27th in EPA per target, 36th in yards per route run. I mean, if you looked at the dude, you wouldn't expect him to be such an efficient wide receiver. But again, here we find ourselves with, I mean, being able to have like not just 1, but 2 running backs that can run in between the tackles, but also can catch the ball in space and be efficient with the targets that they're being given, that they're earning. But then also, I mean, if we're talking about once we get into the red zone, again, we find them up at the top. I mean, of course, as I was talking about Allen Lazard earlier, Allen Lazard, of course, I mean, very efficient, but A.J. Dillon was more efficient. A.J. Dillon, 5th in EPA per target amongst all of those other position groups I just listed off. I mean, more so than most of the wide receivers that you can think of right now. Maybe not more so than Cooper Kupp, but you get the idea. But Aaron Jones, 18th in targets per route run at 27.3% share. I mean, based off of the targets he was running in the red zone and also the routes, I mean, the targets he was earning versus the divided by the routes that he was running. Aaron Jones, interestingly enough, 27.3% targets per route run. Austin Eckler, 26.7%, a guy that's being drafted well ahead of Aaron Jones as of right now. And again, Aaron Jones, more efficient on an EPA per target basis, 0.14 EPA per target than CeeDee Lamb at 0.13. Again, another guy that's being drafted well ahead of Aaron Jones. So there you have it, folks. I mean, we now have at least not 1, but 2 pass catchers attached to Aaron Rodgers that are, I mean, well equipped to be the receivers that they need him to be. I mean, of course, if you want to chase Romeo Doubs, that's fine. Sammy Watkins for however many games, the handful of games he's going to be healthy, absolutely fine. I'm not going to argue with you about that. Christian Watson, given his draft capital, I'm sure he'll come on at some point during the season. I mean, have no problems with that as well. Those wide receivers are all fine at their ADP. Maybe Doubs is getting a little expensive for my taste, but that's my personal belief. But the receivers that I'm targeting in the Packers, they don't have a WR designation next to them. It's Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon for me, y'all. It showed us that last year. We can already see how, given their offensive line and what they're trying to do as of right now, how they can weave together not just A.J. Dillon as a rusher, but have Aaron Jones on the field alongside of him in pony packages in order to have Aaron Jones streak down the field in that Alvin Kamara-like fashion in order to create explosives down the field. I mean, all of that's laid out for him this year. So y'all chase the wide receivers if you want to. For me personally, I will be targeting Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon in each of my drafts. So yell at me all you want, but I appreciate you guys taking the time in order to listen to this video. If you like any of the other analysis that's going on here at Football Guys, stuff from me, Dave, Troy, I mean, any of the other folks that are here, I mean, y'all know what to do at YouTube. I mean, the like, the subscribe button, drop a comment, come yell at me on Twitter if you need to. But until then, I mean, good luck in your drafts. Good luck in your fantasy leagues this upcoming season. And I will catch y'all next week. Peace.